sex is very important in a marriage, period, point blank. God created sex and he wants it to be utilized and enjoyed and all of that good stuff. Hey guys, Tiffany Ofili Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. As you can see, we got the homie back up in this thing.
Hi, everybody.
For those of you who don't know or who are new here, this is my husband, Jeff Porter. He and I just celebrated 13 years of marital bliss. And in this video, we are going to do a 13 lessons that we've learned from being married for 13 years. Are you ready to get into it?
Yep.
Let's go ahead and jump into it. I actually wrote a whole blog on this topic. So if you're interested in reading the print form of this video, head to my website, tiffofili.com, where I go into detail. But number one is master the art of communication. But I know it's such a cliche about mastering the art of communication or being a masterful communicator. But Jeff, can you kind of speak to how that has been helpful or how we've grown in that area in our marriage?
Well, I mean, it's understanding how each of us communicate. When Tiffany tells a story, she likes to deviate 4 or 5 times and then hopes that you come back to the original main point. And I'm much more of a direct, who, what, when, where, why, with the facts. Let's get to that. I try to skip to the end, to the conclusion, figure out what happened. And so just understanding how each of us communicates is a critical thing for our marriage.
Agreed. So there is a reason why everybody always talks about being a masterful communicator and why it's so important in marriage. And I find that having those difficult conversations, although it might not be fun in the moment, it really does help in the long term. He talked about communication style. I think my style is a little bit more direct. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's direct when you want it to be.
Oh, you mean like when I'm not like telling stories and giving extra details?
Correct. But then on a similar conversation, if you're trying to, it's really understanding each other's point of view, and that's a challenge because there have been many times when we have, wait, what do you mean? And I had to provide examples. That's kind of, you're supposed to provide examples, but you're not supposed to remember stuff. You're supposed to let stuff go. So that's the balancing act of communication.
Oh, that's a good point. It's almost like don't harbor on stuff, but yet when you're in a heated discussion or in a disagreement, it's like, give me a time when that happened. It's like, but I'm supposed to forget about it. That's a very good point. So anybody listening out there, yes, it's a cliche that you need to communicate with your spouse, but it's a cliche for a reason. Number 2.
Compromise and be flexible. Yeah, this was fun. What we've learned is that Tiffany does things a whole lot different than I do. And so I've had to adjust to how we do. For example, Tiffany, she has a very unique relationship with time management. And so I've had to understand that there's some things that we're just going to have to compromise on, especially when we have reservations and places we need to be on time.
Oh my goodness. Jeffrey says I'm always late. I'm never late, but I might be rushing. I kind of wait to the last minute to do stuff. I'm kind of always like in the middle of getting it done, but I always do get it done in the nick of time. But that is one good example. I think being flexible, you talked about us doing things very differently. I can even talk about something as silly as like how we clean or how we wash dishes.
Oh, she hates the way I clean wash dishes. That's a fact. I don't do a level of, I don't clean or do the dishes as a Tiffany level. And so the dishes are done, things are clean, but it's a different level of detail or way of doing it. Had to adjust to.
That speaks to 2 things. 1, we are different people. What's going to be clean to him might not be clean to me, but sometimes done is better than perfect. And 2, I do think it is important to sometimes, even if something's not done the way you want it to be done, and you might leave like a piece of lettuce underneath the strainer.
Right? So you're supposed to do dishes. We don't want to use the dishwasher. We want to put it in the kitchen. We want to put it in the sink. And so there might be a piece of lettuce or a corn or a bean, and I'll be like, well, you use the dishwasher.
Well, the thing is, I think it also speaks to just putting your partner's needs ahead of your own. Like he's here washing dishes, helping, clean up around the house. I'm grateful for that. And I'd rather it be done instead of perfect and just not stress out about the trivial things. Okay. Number 3 lesson that we have learned is to respect each other's differences.
Tiffany and I do not see eye to eye on a variety of subjects. But she's come around to my side on a few. But the challenge
and he's coming around to my side on a few as well.
You know, I understand that Tiffany sees things differently, and the fact that we are different people and have come from very different backgrounds is something that you have to admire and to learn to work within it.
I will give you a specific example. We're both Black, right? Obviously, Black in America, that comes with a whole level of stuff. However, I'm the child of immigrants from Nigeria, first generation American. And growing up, the way that we saw the world, the way that we were taught is very different than my husband, who is Black American, born, raised here, you know, and...
Yeah, my mother grew up in the segregated South, my dad grew up in New Jersey. So we're three generations removed from slavery, 3 or 4 generations removed from slavery, 4 generations removed, and it's a different experience.
It is a different experience, and I think that just, even though sometimes when I first met Jeff, I just didn't necessarily understand some of the things that he would refer to, and vice versa. I think we've learned to now embrace that. And
Tiffany uses British English, and she still does every day. Like, put in the comment section about what a pigeonhole is.
Everybody knows what a pigeonhole is, or a boot. Growing up, that's how my parents talked, and that's what I knew.
Like, is it a lift?
Or an elevator? It's a lift. Anyway, but again, very small things that people might not necessarily think about, but they are differences that we've kind of had to maneuver. There's obviously way bigger ones that we've had to kind of deal with throughout our marriage and our relationship. But at the end of the day, we respect it, we cherish it, we honor it.
Number 4, nurture romance. Tiffany is...
nurture romance.
She claims us to be a romantic. I think she's developed more into romantic now that she's a little older. When we were younger and dating.
What?
Like, you know how the gentleman would come up and bring like flowers and things like that to your date. Tiffany hates flowers.
I don't hate flowers.
When we were dating, she hated flowers. Like she told me word for word, like, this is a waste of money. Don't buy me.
Okay, now here's the thing.
No. She told me don't buy her flowers. And so I'm approaching 40, and I rarely buy Tiffany flowers for that. And then she's mad, like, no, like, but anyway, the point is romance is a thing that, you know, as you get older, it changes and it evolves. And so trying to understand what your partner's needs as it evolves as a people.
I agree. And just real quick, back to the flower conversation. I think this is actually a testament to how much I rocked with you. The way I looked at it when we were 18, 19 years old, it's not that I didn't love flowers.
I was 19.
I loved flowers. However, I'm like, yo, we are college students. We are broke.
Yo, see, listen, that's cat.
Let me finish. We are college students. We are broke. And babe, instead of you spending money on these flowers, I'd rather you take me on a date to Chinese buffet or Qdoba or something.
Again, this conversation is absolute cap because we didn't go to Chinese buffet nor Qdoba when we were in college.
Cottage Inn, Little Caesars. The point is, I was looking at more practical ways to use that money. But now that you're doing a little bit better than being a broke college student, I want my flowers. So give me my flowers. But I do agree, romance is important, and whatever that looks like to you in your marriage, make sure that you prioritize it even 13 years in. Number 6, prioritizing quality time. Now, this kind of goes back to the one we just said about nurturing romance, but I think it's a little bit different because quality time can mean a lot of things. If I'm sitting on the couch, hanging with the kids or watching one of my Netflix shows, and I want to spend quality time with you, even though we have very different ideas of what good television is, just you being there in my presence is very important to me. Quality time is one of probably my main love language. Top 2, definitely. So that is very important to me, and I really do cherish that. So how do you feel about?
You've got to prioritize quality time. I think it's challenging now with 2 kids. One is they're both needing attention in different ways.
Yes.
But it's hard to find the time to, because when I get home from work, I immediately come in, I do the dishes, and get ready for bed, get for dinner, get the kids ready for bed. So by the time the end of the night is, I'm exhausted. I have to get up. I'm usually up between 5:30 and 6 every morning. So trying to find it is critical. It's just a challenge now that we have 2 kids.
I agree, but we do make time, and when they go to sleep, like right now, for instance, we make time for each other.
Quality time.
You not enjoy recording this YouTube video for the people, Jeff?
It goes back to embracing our differences.
Yeah. You guys, I'm bringing him over. Before you know it, he's going to be the bigger content creator than me. But kind of going back to embracing the mundane, sometimes a meal, going for a walk, enjoying a hobby together, these small things can really feed into that quality time and can add up to make a really big difference in your marriage.
Support each other's dreams. I think this one became much more prevalent in right around 2018, 2019, 2018, something like that. So Tiffany, we had our baby in 2019. Did you get that wrong? And so Tiffany wanted to come back to run track again. So we reluctantly came to an agreement of like I would coach her, and the reason why I was reluctant is because it changes the dynamic from husband and wife to coach athlete. And I know Tiffany's talked about that before. I did that because she had a dream. I wanted to support her on in doing it. So I don't always agree with everything, but if she feels passionate about it, like her content business, then I'll support it.
And I respect that and I appreciate that. And it's funny because us being here now in Kansas City and kind of in this space where we're all supporting Jeff on this dream to be such a mover and shaker in the athlete business world. I think you spent a good portion of the beginning of our marriage supporting me, coaching me. You know, we supported each other earlier on when we both were competing. And now that I've taken a step back from track, I feel like I'm supporting you in this new chapter of your life. And I'm doing it so happily. And y'all, I'm also reaping the benefits of said support as well. So I just do think it's really important to prioritize, you know, supporting your spouse in whatever way that might look. It doesn't need to be a huge grand gesture like coaching you to an Olympic Games. It can be something small like if you see he's struggling with, I don't know, staying on track, getting him a journal to help keep him accountable. Just small things like that, showing that you are invested in their success, I think really does go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Practice forgiveness. I mean, conflict is inevitable between any relationship, and knowing how to manage conflict is critical, I think. Tiffany talks about forgiveness, and practicing forgiveness is a Christian principle, and it's not always the easiest thing. So what we have to do really is trying to figure out how to do it, especially in some heated moments. That's the hardest part that really in almost any relationship is understanding the forgiveness component of it and then leaving it alone. But always goes back to the first part is, well, you want to have examples, but you also want to forget things and let them be bygones. So it's certainly a balance.
I agree. I believe, you know, forgiveness is a learned skill. Like it takes a lot of work to be able to forgive freely. And I think just practicing it and realizing, like having a paradigm shift that when you forgive somebody else, it's freeing you more so than it's freeing the other person. Because when you're holding on to grudges, when you're holding on to anger or frustration or malice or whatever the case may be, it's a burden on you. So when you forgive somebody, it helps you. That's first point. Second point, there's something to be said about practicing forgiveness for small things. Okay, he didn't put up his shoes when he came, even though I've told him 10 times to do so.
Yeah,
I'm just going to put up them shoes and not make it a whole thing.
There's context there, right? Like
these damn shoes.
For example, like if you walk into let's say you walk into a mother, right? And you bought a specific shoe rack that y'all were going to share. That becomes one group of shoes. There's nowhere else to put your shoes. So
you definitely have shoes on that rack, and I have receipts.
Again, yeah, find the receipts, please.
That was just an example, though. Like honestly, if you practice forgiveness for small things, when big things occur or things that seem big to you, not big to the other person, it'll make it just that much easier. And you know, I love the Lord. I'm always going to kind of refer back to what the Bible teaches us, that when you forgive other people, it makes it easier for God to forgive you, or something like that. When you forgive other people, it just helps, you know, you to release those burdens, and God forgave us, so you got to forgive other folks, period. Number 8, working as a team. I think this one is a very unique one because Jeff and I competed for a living. Literally got paid to compete against other people. We're very competitive people by nature. You kind of have to be, I think, to be an athlete. And we had to kind of learn, like, I'm talking like early in our marriage, even when we were dating, that we're on the same team here. We're not competing against each other.
Yeah.
You stay in your lane, I stay in my lane. And when we come together, we can make harmony and make something beautiful.
And when we were dating, I was talking a lot of trash to her. And I basically made her race me because that's what we did. And she didn't like it that much because she lost 100% of the time.
100% of the time. Jeff, I literally have receipts. We are not doing this today.
So at that point, we had to realize I couldn't beat her all the time. So what we ended up doing was trying to figure out how we want to be on the same team here.
From pretty early on, we had to figure out we're working together and not against each other. So y'all keep that in mind. When you are in a marriage, in a relationship, you guys work together to tackle a problem. You guys work together to find a solution to fix something, and never against each other, because that just leads to a lot of animosity. And why do you want to compete with your spouse? Support each other, uplift each other. Number 9.
Maintain individuality. Like, this is a good one, as Tiffany and I are very different people. Like, her taste in shows, her taste in content, her taste in food is different, almost worlds apart, different than mine.
Worlds apart? Are you being dramatic?
You like chickpeas, I like meats.
One example.
You like these drama-filled movies, I like action movies.
Okay, fine. That's 2 examples. Okay, anyway, fine.
I like regular food. You like food that's gonna burn your mouth off.
Spicy food is not food if it ain't spicy. You gotta have some spice in that thing. Come on. Okay, stay on track here.
So there's some things that I really enjoy that Tiffany is like not really a fan of, but I like buying J's. Tiffany hates my shoe collection.
You don't even wear most of those shoes.
I want one every game. The fact is that we're very different people, and so there are unique differences, and trying to embrace that. Like listen, she can go out and hang out and do what she wants to do, and enjoy that piece of her that remains like that individual person, and I love it, and I respect it. And as long as she does the same thing for me, I think we're in a good space. I
agree. Taking that time to kind of just nurture your own interests, and maybe just step away and have some girl time, or just have some me time. It's very important, even in a marriage. Just because I've been with this man since 17, it's about to be 20 years pretty soon, does not mean that I need to be up under him all the time, even though I do love being up under you, baby.
Brunch for 4 hours.
It was not 4 hours.
6 hours brunch.
We do be having a good time at brunch. My girls, you know who you are.
I come back like midnight talking. Hey, guys, like your brunch was like 12.
Okay, he's exaggerating, but yes, having that time away from your spouse.
Come back tomorrow.
He definitely hangs out with his guys too, so don't even do that. Don't do that.
They go at 12. I see them tomorrow.
Okay. Anyway, number 10.
Express gratitude. I think gratitude is something that everyone who's been a successful individual at any level understands. There's a level of gratitude that you just have to express and be appreciative of the current situation, because there are people who would kill to be in your position. And the fact that you have a spouse, healthy spouse at that, roof over your head, food on your table, and helping the children, I think it's always good to express gratitude, because things could be a lot worse. And from my experience dealing with a lot of my family members, things have been a lot worse. So
yeah,
I've always tried to be grateful for the point where we are, and not to get too caught up on the trivial thing.
I agree. I think a byproduct, I've talked about it before, in case you're new here, we experienced a lot of pregnancy loss before we had our first daughter. And I think a lot of the gratitude that I have experienced is having experienced loss. When you become a mom, and it just hits differently. And I think that gratitude has trickled down even away from motherhood into all aspects of my life, including my marriage. So pro tip, even if you're single, if you're married, wherever you are in your journey, when you focus on gratitude, it literally takes the place of other negative emotions like jealousy, comparison, frustration, feelings of inadequacy, or whatever the case may be, because you are filling yourself up with gratitude and focusing on the positives and the things that bring you joy. And the fact that, like how Jeff said, things can always be worse. So keep gratitude at the forefront. Number 11, resolve conflicts constructively. Now, this one, I think it kind of goes without saying, but it has to be said, okay? Jeff and I, you can't hit below the belt. When you've been with somebody since 17 and 19, we're now 36 and 38, I know what makes him tick. I know what's going to really get under his skin. I know just the things that he's sensitive about. So I have to be...
Nobody's sensitive about nothing.
I have to be very intentional to not hit below the belt, and say like vice versa. He knows exactly what's going to grind my gears. So we've learned very quickly that words have a lot of power, and you have to just be very intentional with your words and respectful of the other person, even when you're in the middle of a conflict.
Right. I mean, once your words are said, you can't take it back.
Exactly. There are certain things that even if you want to, like once it's out there, it's out there. You can't reel it back in. So you have to be very cognizant of that in the middle of conflict, in the middle of dialogue, in the middle of a disagreement, that I'm not going to be below the belt, and we can resolve this constructively. Now, our approaches might be slightly different. I mentioned before that I think my approach is a little bit more direct, a little bit more like, nah, Jeff, we need to have this conversation right now. And that has really served me well in many aspects of my life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's your approach. I mean, and we just have different approaches.
Yeah.
So the next one is keeping intimacy alive. I think
Keep intimacy alive.
I mean, part of it is having, again, is trying to carve out time to make sure that your partner feels that they are still the one that you fell in love with when you first met, and that's part of the intimacy part. Things can get into a monotony routine, and ensuring that there's still time, there's still that spark that's there. I think your partner still wants to feel like they're loved and cared for, you find attractive, and you're trying to make sure that they know that every now and again. Sometimes you gotta yoke that person up every now and again.
I will say, mom and dad, if you listen, and go ahead and close your ears, because I know my mom and my dad do be watching these videos. Sex is very important in a marriage, period, point blank. God created sex, and he wants it to be utilized and enjoyed and all of that good stuff. So I think that kind of goes without saying. We don't need to sit over here and talk about our sex life. But I also want to, I said don't need to. I also want to point out that intimacy can be a lot more than just sex, guys. Like, I mean, cuddling, other things, like just... We are not going to make this awkward. But honestly, just being intentional about keeping that intimacy alive and, figuring out what the other person likes and all that stuff is very, very important. And just because ladies, pro tip, just because you have gotten the man does not mean that you don't want to work to make yourself feel beautiful and put together and sexy and all the things for him, and more importantly for yourself. And why are you acting so ridiculous? You see what I'm saying? I can't take this man nowhere. We're going to wrap this one up because I don't want it to get, go crazy. But I do think it is important to try to just work really hard to keep that spark alive. Now, Jeff and I have been together for a very long time. We have 2 kids. When you're super pregnant and breastfeeding and all the things, sometimes you might not necessarily feel like the sex kitten that you are at different stages of your life. And that is okay. I think just knowing, and in moments like that, it's actually important to realize that intimacy can mean a lot more than sex,
Yes.
Jeff, oh my gosh. You see what I have to deal with?
Oh, goodness. Embrace growth together. I've said this earlier. The person I was at 19, 17 is not the person I am today. We've gone through, personally, I've gone through a lot of growth, a lot of change. I've been through a lot of experiences. I've been, have some high highs and some terrible lows. And so understanding that there is growth that comes with that, right? Now, even in my career, right, you start to see how I was when I first started working in the front office now to where I am now is different. It's just it's a lot different. I have to conduct myself a lot differently. And that growth is going to be something that continues throughout your life. So understanding that the partner is going to change and growth is a key component. So who you were yesterday is not going to be who you are tomorrow. And that's everybody's goal to try to grow and get better. Kids grow, people grow, and it's just a matter of embracing that.
I agree. I think that Jeff and I went into our relationship, our marriage, knowing, we're getting married young by like society standards. We've been together for forever. To think that Tiffany at 17 and Tiffany at 36 are going to be the same person is ridiculous. So I think making that commitment to know that you're essentially going to be growing together, and even when things look a lot different, like finding that common thread. For example, Jeff and I met on the track team. We bonded over track. We literally had track as a common thread in our marriage up until like 3 years ago. So for like 16 years of our dating life, track was a common thread. we've now both stepped away from track fully. I mean, I'm still doing some commentating.
No, I stepped away.
But exactly. But the point is that we're not really immersed in sport like that. So we had to figure out, so who are we? With now track no longer being there, do we still vibe together? Do we still mesh? Like, do we still have a lot in common? And I think that was something that we kind of had to work through. It was easy because we have been together for so long. Like, I know Jeff like the back of my hand. That's one thing I will say. I can speak Jeff's language fluently. I feel like sometimes even better than himself. But would you agree with that assessment?
You're going.
But the point I'm trying to make is that you have to be committed to growing with your spouse and know that different seasons require different things, and adapting and evolving as a couple will definitely set you up.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So, guys, let me know down in the comments if there's any tip that you would add to this list that you've learned in your relationship, in your marriage. Let me know if there's any of these lessons that we've learned that you want us to elaborate on. We could do a part 2 where we kind of dive.
Again, I think she's speaking.
Where we kind of dive into like each individual lesson and kind of build a whole video out of it, because these are some really great lessons that we have learned throughout these 13 years. Is there anything you want to say in closing, JP? Well, thank you for joining us on this video. The people love it when JP's on here.
That's cap.
That's not cap.
That's cap.
For those of you who don't know, cap means lion. You know these millennials, they always using all this slang. But guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.